My friend, listen closely. There comes a time in every life when you stand before a locked door. You see the opportunities on the other side. You can almost feel the breakthrough waiting. But no matter how hard you knock, no matter how clever your strategies, no matter how desperate your efforts, the door will not open. And in that moment, you realize a truth that shakes your pride. Only God has the key. Only God can open the financial door that no man can shut. That is where true victory begins, not with human hands forcing a lock, but with a surrendered heart trusting the Almighty to turn the handle. We live in a world where people measure worth by wealth, where success is defined by possessions, where respect is given to those who seem to have more. Yet behind many smiling faces hides crushing debt, restless worry, and empty souls. They chase money as if it were a god, bowing before the altar of greed. But money is not a master, it is a tool. And when you let God take his rightful place as your provider, he uses even the smallest seed to produce a harvest beyond imagination. That is the foundation of true financial freedom. Not worshiping wealth, but surrendering your resources, your hopes, and your future to the one who holds the storehouses of heaven. Do not think for a moment that God is blind to your struggle. He sees the bills stacking on the table. He hears the silent cries at night when you wonder how you'll make it through the month. He knows the weight of responsibility pressing on your shoulders. But let me tell you this with all conviction, God has never forsaken the righteous. God has never abandoned those who trust in him. The hand of God is not short. His resources are not limited. His generosity does not run dry. If he can feed the birds of the air and clothe the lilies of the field, he can open a financial door for you that no one could ever imagine. But here is where the decision comes. Will you trust him? Will you surrender control of your finances into his hands? Too often, people try to live in two worlds. They pray for God's blessing, but cling to worry, doubt, and disobedience. They beg for provision, but close their fists when God calls them to give. They want open doors, yet they refuse to align their steps with his truth. My friend, hear me clearly. Financial breakthrough is not just about money. It is about faith, obedience, and trust. When you place God first, when you honor him with what you have, he opens doors that no bank, no employer, and no system could ever close. God's doors are different from man's doors. Man's door might swing on hinges of favoritism, corruption, or fleeting opportunity. But when God opens a financial door, it is rooted in eternal purpose. It does not just bless your pocket, it blesses your soul. It lifts you out of fear and places you on the solid ground of faith. It shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, not because you suddenly have more, but because you realize that the source of all things is with you, for you, and working through you. You may say, but I have nothing left. My resources are gone. My strength is exhausted. My opportunities have dried up. Then rejoice, for you are in the perfect position to see the hand of God. Throughout history, God has shown his power not when people were overflowing with resources, but when they stood empty and helpless. When a widow had only a handful of flour, God multiplied it until famine turned into feast. When a servant held only a jar of oil, God poured it out until debt was erased and abundance overflowed. When a hungry crowd had only a few loaves and fish, God created a banquet that fed thousands. And when you have little left, when you stand at the end of your rope, God delights to show you that he alone is your provider. But let us be clear, God does not open financial doors for selfishness. He does not bless greed. He does not fund pride. He blesses for His glory. He opens doors so that you may walk through them with humility, generosity, and gratitude. The question is not only, will God bless me? But also, what will I do with the blessing once it comes? If you hoard it, it will decay. If you idolize it, it will destroy you. But if you honor God with it, if you serve others with it, if you allow your blessing to become someone else's answer to prayer, then God will continue to pour more, for He can trust you with His treasure. I must warn you, there are false doors in this world. Promises of quick wealth, schemes that prey on desperation, paths paved with lies that lead only to ruin. Do not be deceived. When God opens a financial door, it will never require you to compromise your integrity, betray your values, or abandon your faith. God's blessing does not add sorrow, it brings peace. It does not enslave, it frees. If the door you are about to walk through demands you sell your soul, know this, it is not from God. Close it, walk away, and wait for the true door to open. Now, some of you are asking, how do I prepare for God to open my financial door? You begin with prayer. Not empty words, but desperate, honest, faith-filled prayer. Cry out to Him with the sincerity of your heart. Ask Him not only to provide, but to shape your character. Ask Him to remove greed, fear, and doubt. Ask Him to make you trustworthy with whatever He gives. And then live in obedience. Align your life with His principles, integrity in your work, generosity in your giving, humility in your attitude, discipline in your spending. For faith without action is empty, and prayer without obedience is powerless. You see, financial breakthrough is not about sitting idly and waiting for a miracle. It is about moving in faith while trusting God with the outcome. Work diligently, but remember that promotion comes from God. Give faithfully, but remember that harvest comes from God. Plan wisely, but remember that security comes from God. The farmer who plants must still depend on God to send the rain. And you, no matter how hard you work, must remember that every open door, every opportunity, every increase comes not from your effort alone, but from the hand of Almighty God. The world will tell you that money is the answer to all problems. But you know better. You know that without God, money can vanish overnight. Without God, riches can rot, investments can collapse, and banks can fail. But with God, even a little becomes enough. With God, the impossible becomes possible. With God, doors open in places you never thought existed. With God, financial freedom is not just wealth. It is peace of mind, strength of spirit, and joy that no currency could ever buy. My friend, let me speak plainly. The greatest obstacle to seeing God open your financial door is not the economy, not the lack of opportunity, not the failures of the past. It is unbelief. The door may already be unlocked, but unbelief keeps your hand from turning the handle. Doubt whispers, it will never happen for you. Others may prosper, but not you. God has forgotten you. But that is a lie straight from the pit of despair. God has not forgotten you. God has not overlooked you. The timing of His blessing is perfect. The manner of His provision is precise. And the moment He chooses to open your financial door, nothing and no one can stand in the way. Faith is not wishful thinking. Faith is not closing your eyes and hoping circumstances will change. Faith is standing on the unshakable reality that God is faithful, even when your bank account is empty, even when your job feels insecure, even when the doors of opportunity seem to slam in your face. Faith says, though I see nothing now, I will trust that God is working behind the scenes. Though I hold little in my hand, I will believe that God can multiply it. Though the world declares impossible, I will proclaim, with God, all things are possible. That is the faith that moves mountains. That is the faith that opens financial doors. Do not underestimate the power of gratitude in this journey. A heart that grumbles repels blessing, but a heart that gives thanks invites abundance. If you cannot thank God for the little you have now, how will you thank Him when He gives you more? Gratitude shifts your perspective. It teaches you to see provision even in the smallest things. A meal on the table, a roof over your head, the strength to work, the chance to try again. And when you give thanks in the small, you prepare yourself to receive the great. The door of abundance opens more quickly to those who walk through life with thankful hearts. Let me remind you, God's provision often begins with a test. Before the door swings wide, God may allow circumstances that press you, that strip away pride, that challenge your trust. He may take you into a wilderness season, not to destroy you, but to refine you. For it is in the wilderness where dependence on Him is born. It is in lack that faith is forged. It is in the waiting that character is proven. Many want the blessing, but few are willing to endure the testing. Yet those who endure, those who remain steadfast, those who choose to trust God, when every outward sign says otherwise, those are the ones who step into doors that others never see. Understand this. God's financial door is not merely about money. It is about destiny. When God blesses, it is not only to put food on your table, but to put influence in your hand. It is not only to ease your burden, but to equip you for greater impact. When He prospers you, it is so that you may bless generations. When He opens your financial door, it is not a small gesture. It is a divine strategy. He wants to use you as a channel of provision in a world drowning in need. And the question you must answer is this: are you willing to let His blessing flow through you, not just to you? Do not despise small beginnings. Many miss their door because they are waiting for something grand while ignoring the little opportunities right before them. That part-time job, that small project, that tiny seed of an idea, it may not look like much, but when God breathes on it, it multiplies. Remember, doors often appear ordinary before they swing open into the extraordinary. You may be faithful in what feels insignificant, but in God's eyes, you are passing a test. Be faithful in the little, and He will trust you with much. Some of you are standing before doors right now, but fear is holding you back. Fear of failure, fear of risk, fear of change. Let me tell you, fear is a thief. It steals opportunities. It paralyzes progress. It blinds you to the possibilities that God has already placed before you. But faith is courage in action. Faith steps forward, even trembling, because it knows God walks ahead. If the door is from God, then the ground you step on is already secured by His promise. Do not let fear lock you out of the very breakthrough you have been praying for. Others are trapped by comparison. You look at someone else's blessing, someone else's financial door, and you think God has favored them more than you. But comparison is poison to your soul. What God has for you is tailored, timed, and prepared for you alone. You cannot walk through another person's door. You cannot carry another person's blessing. Stop envying what belongs to someone else and start preparing for what God has designed for you. Your door is coming, and when it opens, it will fit perfectly with your calling, your gifts, and your destiny. Let me say this with authority: poverty is not your permanent address. Lack is not your identity. Scarcity is not your inheritance. You are not defined by what you lack, but by the one who provides. God is your source, and He delights in supplying your needs. Do not let the voice of the enemy convince you that you are forgotten or unworthy. Lift up your head, straighten your shoulders, and declare with confidence, God is my provider. God will open my door. God will make a way where there is no way. When the financial door opens, it may not come in the form you expect. God may bless you with wisdom to manage what you already have. He may give you creativity that turns into opportunity. He may align you with the right people at the right time. He may lead you into ventures that seem small at first, but grow beyond measure. Do not limit God by expecting only one kind of blessing. His ways are higher than your ways, and His plans exceed your imagination. Stay open, stay alert, stay faithful, and you will not miss the door He places before you. And when that door opens, and it will, walk through it with boldness. Do not hesitate. Do not look back in doubt. Do not apologize for the blessing of God upon your life. Walk through with gratitude, humility, and the determination to honor Him with all that He gives. For your breakthrough is not just about you. It is about the testimony it will create. Others will see what God has done in your life, and they will be stirred to believe that He can do the same for them. Your blessing becomes a witness. Your increase becomes a message. Your open door becomes an invitation for others to trust in God's faithfulness. My friend, when you begin to understand that every good thing flows from the hand of God, your entire outlook on life changes. You stop striving as though everything depends on your strength. You stop panicking as though your survival rests on the shifting winds of the economy. You begin to live with a deeper peace, a holy confidence, because you know that the doors of heaven are not controlled by the opinions of men. God alone determines the season of your increase, and when He declares a door open, no one can close it. But hear this truth. God's financial doors are not simply about wealth, they are about stewardship. A steward understands that what is placed in their hands is not truly theirs, it is entrusted to them for a purpose. When God opens your financial door, He is watching not only what you will receive, but how you will manage it. Will you squander it on vanity, or will you invest it in what truly matters? Will you cling to it in fear, or will you release it in faith? The true test of abundance is not what you gain, but how you use what has been given. Some of you are standing in a season of waiting. You have prayed, you have sound, you have believed, and yet the door has not yet swung open. Let me tell you, delay does not mean denial. Waiting is not abandonment. Many times, the waiting season is God's preparation season. He is stretching your faith. He is purifying your motives. He is teaching you endurance. He is protecting you from premature blessings that would harm you if they came too soon. When the farmer plants, he does not dig up the seed the next day to see if it has sprouted. He waits, knowing that unseen growth is taking place underground. And in the same way, while you are waiting, God is working beneath the surface. The roots are growing. The foundation is being laid. And when the time is right, your financial door will burst open with power. Do not despise discipline in this journey. Discipline is the guardrail that protects the blessing once it comes. Without discipline, wealth destroys faster than poverty. Without discipline, increase turns into bondage. God may be holding the door closed until you are ready to handle what lies behind it. If you cannot manage little without waste, how will you manage much without ruin? If you cannot handle one stream responsibly, how will you steward a river? Discipline in finances is not about restriction. It is about positioning yourself for overflow. God's open doors are not for the careless, but for the faithful. Let me warn you that there will be resistance when God begins to open your financial door. The enemy does not rejoice when the people of God prosper, for he knows that prosperity in the hands of the righteous shakes his kingdom. You will face opposition, discouragement, even betrayal. Doors that God has ordained may attract jealousy from others, but you must not be shaken. If the door is truly from God, no enemy can shut it, no critic can block it, no scheme can derail it. Opposition is not proof that God is absent. It is often confirmation that you are on the edge of breakthrough. You must also guard your heart against pride when the door opens. Prosperity can be a greater test than poverty. In scarcity, you cry out to God. In abundance, you may be tempted to forget Him. Remember always that it is not your wisdom, not your skill, not your effort alone that opened the door. It was God. Pride whispers, "What I have done." But humility declares, "Look what God has given." Pride turns blessings into idols, but humility turns blessings into testimonies. If you keep humility at the center, God can trust you with more, for He knows you will give Him the glory. Let us not forget generosity. A closed hand cannot receive, but an open hand is ready for blessing. God does not pour into reservoirs, He pours into rivers. When your financial door opens, let the blessing flow through you to others. Be a source of hope for the weary, a light for the struggling, a vessel of God's provision in a needy world. The more you give, the more God can trust you with, because He knows you will not hoard His blessings. Your generosity becomes a key that unlocks even greater doors. Some of you may say, "But I have given and received nothing." Do not give as a transaction, as if God were a banker you can manipulate. Give as an act of worship, as a declaration of trust, as a seed sown in faith. For in due season, the harvest comes. Not always in the way you expect, not always in the time you demand, but always in the way that God knows is best. And when it comes, it will arrive pressed down, shaken together, running over, in ways that leave no doubt that the source was God alone. Remember this, God's financial door is not locked by your past mistakes. You may have mismanaged before. You may have fallen into debt, wasted opportunities, made choices that brought regret. But God is a redeemer. He is the one who restores the years the locusts have eaten. He is the one who gives beauty for ashes. He is the one who takes broken vessels and fills them with new oil. Do not let shame keep you from expecting God's provision. Your failures do not cancel His faithfulness. When you turn back to Him with sincerity, He can open new doors, even in the ruins of your past. And let me tell you something vital, your financial door may be the very thing that positions you to fulfill your calling. When you are bound by lack, your vision shrinks to survival. But when God prospers you, your vision expands to destiny. You begin to think not just about making it through the day, but about building for generations to come. You begin to dream bigger, plan wider, give deeper. You see yourself not as a victim of circumstances, but as an instrument in the hands of God. That is what an open door does. It transforms you from surviving to thriving, from struggling to building, from barely holding on to lifting others up. My friend, lean in and hear this. When God sets His hand upon your life, every locked gate, every barred entrance, every chain of lack must yield to His authority. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," can speak into your finances and command a door to open where there was once only a wall. What you see as impossible, God sees as inevitable. What you call hopeless, God calls preparation. And what you think is an ending, God has already marked as the very beginning of your breakthrough. You must grasp this truth with all your heart. Money in itself has no power, but when it is placed under the authority of God, it becomes a force that builds, heals, uplifts, and advances. Wealth in the wrong hands brings destruction, but in the hands of the faithful, it becomes testimony of God's goodness. This is why your prayer should never be, give me more money, but rather, God, make me a worthy steward of whatever you choose to pour into my life. Because when you are prepared, when your heart is aligned, when your spirit is anchored, then when God opens the door, you will not waste the blessing. You will walk in it with purpose. Do not forget that God often begins His miracles with what you already have. The door is not always hidden in some distant opportunity. It may be right there in your house, in your skill, in your idea, in your network, in the simple thing you have overlooked. God asked Moses, "What is in your hand?" And with a staff, seas were parted and nations delivered. A widow brought only a jar of oil, and God multiplied it until lack turned into surplus. What is in your hand today? It may seem small, but if God breathes on it, that very thing could be the key to your open door. But let me speak with boldness. God will not open financial doors for those who serve money as their master. If greed is your God, the doors of heaven will remain shut, for God will not fund idolatry. But if your heart is pure, if your desire is to glorify Him, if your longing is not only to prosper, but to be a vessel of His goodness, then stand ready, because those are the hearts God delights to bless. The financial door He opens is not just for your comfort, it is for His kingdom's work, for the uplift of others, for the legacy of faith you will leave behind. There is something you must also understand: God's timing is perfect. You may think He is late, but He is never late. He may not move according to your clock, but He moves according to His divine schedule. Many give up just before the door opens, abandoning faith at the very threshold of breakthrough. But those who endure, those who refuse to quit, those who choose to trust when everything screams to doubt, they are the ones who see doors swing open in glory. Patience is not passive. It is the active stance of faith that says, though the vision tarry, I will wait for it will surely come. And when the door opens, it often comes with responsibility greater than you imagined. Prosperity is not only about receiving, it is about managing well what you have been entrusted with. The world celebrates those who flaunt wealth, but heaven celebrates those who honor God with it. When your door opens, do not let arrogance creep in. Do not forget the days of prayer, the nights of weeping, the hours of struggle. Remember who it was that brought you out. Remember the lessons learned in the valley, for they will keep you grounded on the mountaintop. I must tell you this: the financial door that God opens is not just about survival. It is about vision. It is about lifting your eyes beyond your own needs to see the needs of others. It is about funding dreams that bless communities, supporting causes that bring hope, raising generations that know the value of faith and integrity. When your door opens, think generationally. Think beyond today. Think about how your obedience, your stewardship, your generosity can ripple through time, touching lives you may never even meet. That is the true mark of God's blessing. It outlives you. But take caution. for not every opportunity is a door from God. The world will present counterfeits, openings that glitter but lead to bondage, shortcuts that promise quick gain but end in sorrow. Pray for discernment. Measure every opportunity against God's truth. If the path demands compromise of your character, it is not from Him. If the deal requires you to abandon your integrity, it is a trap. If the opportunity looks bright but leaves your spirit uneasy, walk away. Better to wait for the true door of God than to rush into a counterfeit that destroys what you've prayed for. And let me encourage you, do not underestimate the power of faith spoken aloud. Declare the promises of God over your finances. Speak life over your work, over your business, over your household. Do not let your lips echo only fear and worry. When you say, "I will never make it," you are closing the door with your own words. But when you declare, "God is my provider, and He will make a way," you align yourself with His power. Your tongue can be a key that either locks or unlocks the financial doors God intends for you. Some of you may feel unworthy, saying, "Why would God bless me? I have failed too many times." But hear me clearly, God's blessing is not about your perfection. It is about His grace. His mercy covers your past. His power redeems your mistakes. His love restores your dignity. Do not disqualify yourself from the blessing that God has already prepared. Humble yourself before Him. Surrender your pride, confess your need, and trust that He delights to bless His children. You are not too far gone. The door is not too far closed. The God who opened seas, who rained manna from heaven, who provided water from rocks, is the same God who will open your financial door. And when that door opens, let it be known that it was God and God alone. Do not attribute it to luck. Do not give the credit to coincidence. Proclaim boldly that the hand of God moved on your behalf. Testify so that others may know that what He did for you, He can do for them. Your testimony is a key that can unlock faith in someone else's heart, preparing them for their own door of breakthrough. My friend, I must tell you with urgency in my voice, the greatest lie the enemy wants you to believe is that what you see right now is all there will ever be. He wants you trapped in the illusion that your present lack is your permanent state, that closed doors will never open, that scarcity will forever define your life. But hear me, when God steps in, the story changes. When God moves His hand, what was empty becomes full, what was barren becomes fruitful, and what was shut for years bursts wide open in a moment. Never measure your future by your present condition. Never define your destiny by your current difficulty. God specializes in rewriting stories, and yours is not finished yet. You must anchor this truth deep in your heart. God's resources are unlimited. The earth is His and everything in it. The gold, the silver, the cattle on 1,000 hills, all belong to Him. What seems impossible for men is effortless for God. While systems collapse and markets shift, while banks close and businesses fail, God's economy is never in crisis. He is not worried by inflation or shaken by downturns. He does not wring His hands when the world panics. He sits on the throne, sovereign, steady, and sure. And when He decides to open your financial door, no storm in the world can stop Him. But let me be plain. Doors of blessing are not open for idle hands. God blesses diligence. He honors faithfulness. He increases those who are willing to labor with integrity. The ants gather in summer, the farmer plants in season, and so must you put your hand to the plow in whatever work God has given you. Do not despise your small job, your simple task, or your daily routine. For these are often the very fields where God plants the seed of increase. When you show yourself faithful where you are, He can trust you with more. The open door is not a replacement for effort. It is the reward of faith and diligence, working together under His blessing. Do not confuse God's blessing with mere accumulation. Many have riches but live impoverished lives, always chasing, never satisfied, always fearing the loss of what they hold. That is not prosperity, that is slavery. True prosperity is peace in your heart, freedom in your mind, and sufficiency in your hands to live and to give. True prosperity is knowing that you are not bound to money, but money is bound to serve the purposes of God in your life. When God opens your financial door, He is not simply giving you currency, He is giving you capacity. Capacity to dream bigger, to serve greater, to impact deeper, to live freer. Some of you are one act of obedience away from seeing the door open. God may be nudging you to give, to forgive, to release something you are clinging to. And until you obey, the door remains shut. Remember, obedience is the master key. It is not enough to desire the blessing. You must align with the will of the one who gives it. Saul lost his kingdom through disobedience, but Joseph was elevated through faithfulness in every season. Which path will you choose? Will you resist the prompting of God and remain outside the door? Or will you obey, even when it feels costly, and see the hinges swing wide? I tell you, do not despise the stretching of your faith. God will often bring you to the brink, to the very edge where it seems there is no way forward, so that when the breakthrough comes, there is no doubt it was Him and Him alone. He let the Israelites walk to the edge of the Red Sea with the army of Pharaoh behind them, not to destroy them, but to display His power when the waters parted. He may let you reach the point where your resources are gone, your options exhausted, and your strength depleted. But in that moment, when you have nothing left but trust, you will see Him open the door with such force that every enemy who doubted you will tremble. Be alert, for sometimes God's provision comes disguised. It may not look like a door at first. It may come as an idea that seems too small, a connection that seems too insignificant, a shift in your routine that seems unimportant. But behind that simple thing may be the door to your breakthrough. Naaman almost missed his healing because the river seemed too ordinary. The widow almost missed her miracle because the oil seemed too little. Do not reject the small beginnings, for within them may lie the very opening you have been praying for. And when your door opens, do not waste time hesitating. Fear will whisper, what if you fail? Doubt will whisper, what if it is not real? Envy will whisper, ha, why you not me? But you must silence every voice and move in faith. Walk through boldly, for when God opens a door, it is not a trap. It is an invitation. It is an invitation to step into a higher level of faith, a greater realm of responsibility, and a deeper experience of His provision. Let me also remind you, every open door is also a call to warfare. The enemy will not sit idle while you step into new territory. Expect resistance, expect distraction, expect attack, but do not fear. For the same God who opens the door equips